Now, not so long ago we looked at the yellow A321 from Condor, and even though we are a little bit late to the party, now it's time to look at the blue one, because that is a Herpa Wings Club model. Yes, even though the club doesn't exist anymore, there are still some models coming out from that. And what's that all about? We'll find out thanks to the great prices of the FMB shop. And with that, hello and welcome to an episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A321-200 of Condor. The front of the box, well, it gives us a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of that we have the Condor branding. Then the back side of the box follows the terrible standard box design of Herpa Wings. That means we have yet another cutout. That means that the model is not protected from sunlight. It also means that the box, apart from looking really cheap, is just from an integrity point of view not very stable, so it's just a really bad box design, let's leave it at that. So the only point of interest here is simply the fact that this model is a limited edition and a Herpa Wings Club edition. Now you might point out the Wings Club does not exist anymore, and you are right, it was dissolved end of last year. There is now a new club in place, but that's something different. But there were still a few Wings Club models announced that hadn't been released yet, and this was one of them. Now, before we get any further into today's review, it is worth mentioning that given that this is a Wings Club edition, there is a stand included with the model. And here she is, the Boeing, well, clearly not a Boeing, an Airbus A321 in the standard livery of Condor. At least one of the many standard liveries they have, because of course by now they have a wealth of colors. Blue, as you see here, red, yellow, green, something that looks like baby vomit, and I don't know what else. Now, I'm definitely not a fan of the new Condor liveries, although I must say this is probably the best one in my opinion. But let's figure out what the aircraft model is up to, and the best way to do so is simply by taking a closer look at it, starting off with the tail section, where we find the Condor branding on the vertical stabilizer. On the horizontal stabilizer we also have a printed detail, so that's quite nice. And then on the fuselage we find the full registration code with the German flag, and towards the very tail of the aircraft we also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. Now, I hate to criticize Herpa for adding details, given that they are always very stingy with them, and in this case Herpa has added a set dome to this aircraft model, and I mean that's not wrong. The placement also seems to be pretty much where it should be. But compared to the set dome on the real aircraft, this is massively oversized. Now, I realize that the set dome the real aircraft has is rather small, so small indeed that it might be very difficult to actually recreate in Scale 500, which is why I question why they have even done it. Maybe they should have just indicated it with a print, maybe that would have been the better solution. I don't know. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Then if we take a look at the front of the aircraft, we see across the fuselage the writing of Condor. Next to the front cabin door we have the Condor branding. We also find a few static ports and a few other small hatches. Notice also underneath the second cabin door we have like this box, which is, I guess, where the emergency slide would come out, as far as I know at least. But we have some lovely detailing here, so that's actually quite alright. When we look at the cockpit section itself, again, here also we have some static ports, and we have the cockpit windows with the window wipers, so overall not too bad, I guess. I mean, even the shape of the cockpit itself, which I'm often not very happy with Herpa on the A321, I think here looks not brilliant, but kind of okay. Then let's move on to the engine nacelles. They have been kept in all white, but do carry the Condor branding, have some safety markings, and the silver leading edge printed on, so that's also quite alright in my opinion. The physical detailing of the engines is also quite good, especially here from the front, where we very nicely can see the engine fan blades. Now moving on to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at, starting off with the top side. Here we find the different flap slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely. We have some different shades of grey for additional detailing, and the markings as to where to walk on the wings, even with writing indicated, so that's quite lovely. The underside of the wings has more nice physical detailing, and then of course we also have the winglets here on the A321 with the Condor branding and the stripes. The landing gear on this aircraft model is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the Airbus A320 family aircraft models. A good thing for the main landing gear that looks pretty decent, not so good for the front landing gear that is massively oversized and as always is missing printed details. Now on the belly of the aircraft we do find a hole in the fuselage, and as mentioned in the beginning of the video there is a stand included with this aircraft model, so it kind of makes sense. and it doesn't destroy any printed details, but I am still not a fan of it. I'd prefer not to have the stand and no hole in the fuselage. And then finally, on the aircraft, we also find the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A321-200 in the blue standard livery of Condor from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? As a Herpa Wings Club model, we do have a few additional details across the fuselage, but it's really not that much. I mean, we have a few small tiny details in the cabin doors. We have these boxes for the slides underneath some of the cabin doors. I couldn't really find much more other than maybe the writing on the wings. And the rest is pretty much what you would get from any other standard model. But the model itself is actually quite alright. The cockpit shape of the A320 family is always a difficult topic for me. I'm seldom happy with Herpa. And even though it's also here clearly not perfect, perhaps it's helped by the livery, but I actually think it looks kind of alright from most angles, at least on this aircraft model. We still have the oversized front landing gear. That's something Herpa just seems incapable of fixing. But also when we look at the print quality itself, it seems to be quite alright. I mean, we don't have any major smudges or stuff like that. So yeah, I think Herpa has done overall quite alright with the aircraft model. But do keep in mind, unless you used to be a Wings Club member and therefore could get the aircraft model cheaper than at retail stores, there is no reason to splash the cash for this aircraft model. The model is quite a bit more expensive than the yellow A321 from Condor, and you don't get that many more details. So honestly speaking, it's not worth spending more money. If you have to choose between the two, go for the yellow one. And given that we for sure will see many more Condor models in the future, I would be surprised if there wouldn't be another blue one coming up at some point. So really, don't splash your cash if you don't have to on this aircraft model. There are other options that are better value for money, even though value for money with Herpa Wings these days is of course also a very difficult topic. But on that note, it is time to end today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, thank you so much for watching, hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.